Hi my dear subscribers. Today we will dive in 3 different stories with comments and updates. I will be pleased if you leave a like and a comment after enjoying my video. Thanks in advance and enjoy. Story 1. I, 24 female, leave on a flight in 3 hours for a 5-day business trip. My husband, 28 male, is currently sleeping and I'm finishing packing. A text message popped up on his phone saying, "Yeah, I'd love to spend the night, that'd make things so much easier." It was from a friend, 18 female, of his who we've had disagreements over before, mostly because he doesn't feel the need to tell me anything about her when they hang out, etc., which he does on his own for all of his male friends. He has a number of female friends and I really don't mind, they're good people and there seem to be boundaries in place. Not with this girl though. Texts from her frequently pop up throughout the day and as late as 1 and 2 in the morning. I'll admit curiosity got the better of me and I read their previous few messages. He invited her over to go on a day trip with him to his favorite place to smoke weed. It's her first time. He then invited her to stay the night before so they could get an early start the next day. Thing is, as we're going to bed last night, I asked him what his plans were while I was gone. He usually makes an effort to do something fun for himself and to get one big honey-do item taken care of. When we were talking about my trip last night, he was very detailed in his plans, down to what he'd be doing each day, which was unusual. But he made no mention of this girl and made it sound as though he was making the drive alone. I suggested he hang out with one of his friends. He said, "I don't know, I think I could use a quiet weekend in." I'm freaking out a bit. We've been having some trouble, and I saw her in their messages and he's been talking to her about it a lot. I get needing to have a friend to talk to, but he's always telling me he doesn't want his friends to think poorly of me, yet from their messages she obviously does. Reddit, what do I do? How do I handle this? Updates. First off, I just want to thank everyone for being patient while I sort this out. As I mentioned in my previous post, I left on a business trip and had actual work to do. I also managed to get my account banned from relationship advice because I suck at Reddit, but thanks to the helpful mods who helped me get verified. I made the original post on very little sleep and in a very bad headspace, and honestly, I never thought my post would get as much attention as it did. While I read through as many of the comments as I could, I needed a few days to sort through my own thoughts because this situation may be entertainment to you, but it's my real life and has real lasting consequences that I have to live with. There's a lot of backstory that's necessary to truly understand the state of our union. So rather than post multiple updates, I've broken it up into sections. Feel free to skip over what you're not interested in and skim what you are. A confrontation. Thank you to those who have responded in the early hours. It was 1:30 am when I posted, and I'd gotten a whopping 3 hours of sleep. Needless to say, I was not in the best headspace. Someone gave the advice to tell him, "I'm hurt and disappointed, I'm leaving, you need to fix this." Someone else said to tell him that it doesn't matter how I found out, what matters is that it happened. Thank you for that too. Both those comments really stuck with me, and I lay in bed waiting for him to wake up, typing out how I would respond to whatever direction our conversation took. Quick side note. We've been together for 4 years, and other women have been a constant problem in our relationship. He has many people close to him and me who say he's not the guy to cheat. He's flirty, but he'd never cheat. He's a long-term relationship guy and loyal to the core. That being said, he's had a history of withholding information from me because he thinks it'll make me mad, and he doesn't want me to be upset with him. I'm a pretty chill person, and honestly wouldn't have cared if he asked this girl over and told me about it. In the past, I haven't handled him lying to me very well, hence wanting to have a plan. While I was waiting for him to wake up, I did something I'm not very proud of. I know he'd lied to me and I wanted to have proof of the things he told me about her moving forward, especially where I'd be gone, and she was supposed to be spending the night. I set up his iMessages to come to my iPad. I know all his passwords, so I deleted the email alerts and I just added his phone number. I'm not proud of it, but I didn't have cameras at home and needed to know whether he was telling me the truth while I was gone. He woke up, and I decided to give him one last chance. As I was gathering my things, I asked him what he had planned while I was gone. He gave a very detailed report of his daily plans, casually leaving out anything about this girl staying the night or going to Colorado with him. I was so livid because just the night before, we got into a pretty big fight where he said, "And you don't trust me, I've done nothing to deserve it, but you still treat me like I'm sneaking around." That hurt because we've been going to therapy, and I thought I'd been doing really well at giving him the benefit of the doubt. I used to check his phone because of the earlier problems we'd had, but haven't done so in months. It made me feel crazy and ashamed at the time, and now here I was, standing in our bedroom, watching my husband lie to me through his teeth. "I know you're lying to me, I know you're not going to Colorado alone, and I know you invited an 18-year-old to spend the night in bed," I said, and then I just waited in silence. It was heavy. He took a deep breath and said he had 2 questions. 1. How do I know? It doesn't matter, I know. 2. Did I know during our conversation last night? Quick side note, we've been having a lot of problems lately. We both have mental illnesses which are sometimes exacerbated by the others. He has ADHD, depression, and PTSD, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe I have bipolar disorder of some sort. I have PTSD, anxiety, and a number of health issues, and he's not very good at controlling his anger. Nothing more physical than throwing things or punching walls, but it's absolutely verbal and emotional abuse. I wasn't sure if it was before, but after a recent fight we had, in which I asked him to stop screaming at me so I could finish packing, he said, "You can multitask." Yeah, I realize he sounds like an awful person, and when he's in that headspace he is. It's very much a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation. And when he's kind and calm, he's the sweetest, most loving person I've met, and that's who I fell in love with. I care for him, even at the same time as I know that I don't deserve him, so, the night before, we had a very heartfelt emotional talk, in which I told him I wanted him to be happy. I could tell he wasn't, and I thought he should go home, several thousand miles away, for a few months to figure himself out. I told him I would be his biggest cheerleader, and that if we ended up staying together or divorcing, I would always love him and he would always be my family. We've been through some shit both together and separately, and we were both sobbing by the end of it. But here's the kicker. I told him that if he needed another woman to make him happy, I would let him go and support him as a friend. End of side note. As a result, I was probably pretty harsh in my response and said, "No, I didn't know during our conversation last night, and now I feel like an idiot. Like my husband has been grooming a teenager, and I just gave him my blessing." He tried to get defensive and said that it's not like that. I got really quiet and said, "You're a very smart man. If you can't see that girl wants to get in your pants, you're a fucking idiot. She texts you about her taking a bubble bath and you're telling her about all our problems. Her, when you won't even talk about me with most of your friends, you're telling an 18-year-old about all of our problems." He said he would cancel his plans with her, and I said, "I'm not making that decision. You are. I honestly don't know how you can fix this. I don't care if you go out with her at this point, but I'm leaving. I'm hurt and disappointed, and you need to figure out where your priorities are, because right now, your priority isn't your wife, it's your 18-year-old crush." I kept saying he should have told me, but he didn't want me to make him feel guilty for wanting to hang out with his friend. And I should have known that nothing would happen. I asked him if he loved her, but his gut response was, "No, of course not. That's not at all what I'm looking for." He said that most of the time, he doesn't even like talking to her every day because she's so immature. I told him he was an idiot if he thought she didn't have feelings for him. He tried to push back, but I told him I was 18 once and liked someone who was 28. He went on a date, but when he found out I was 18, he told me he couldn't see me anymore. I said it was fine and we could just be friends, but I still tried my hardest to get him to fall for me. He was silent after that for a long time. That was it. He drove me to the airport. He cried a lot and apologized a lot. I felt a lot of nothing. Heartbreak maybe, but there's been so much turmoil in our relationship that I just didn't care anymore. The fallout. We left things the way we planned to leave them during the heartfelt conversation the night before. We both planned to take the 5 days I was gone to do some soul searching and figure out what and where we needed to be happy. And when I got home, we would talk it over and make a plan. Well, when my plane landed at my destination, I got a text from my husband saying that he would be moved out of that house by the time I got back and that he's going home to the East Coast. He said he was sorry to leave me to manage our upcoming move on my own and that he knew I would be better off this way. He said he was taking the car so he could drive back, but that did leave me all of the money in our bank accounts except what he needed for gas. He said he was sorry for keeping the information about his friend from me, but that our conversation last night had meant so much to him and had been such a high point of our relationship that to wake up and be accused of cheating was a low point that he could not turn back from. He said he didn't know how to make me believe that his intentions were nothing other than company on the drive with his friend, but that it didn't matter and he would leave me alone. I've never felt that angry, hurt, or desperate before. I was coordinating the travel of more than a dozen other people who were on the flight with me, and it felt like all the wind had been knocked out of me. I wanted to sob and scream, but I couldn't because I was surrounded by people I was supposed to be responsible for. I tried my hardest to gain composure, but a few tears slipped out and I just focused on my breathing. If I'm being honest, I'm not proud of my response. I basically begged him to stay. I'd left feeling like if he needed to leave and we didn't stay together, it would be okay, but knowing that I'd be returning home to an empty house, not getting to say goodbye, and that he was ending things over a text after 4 years together was just too much for me. I sounded like a child. I said I needed him, that he was making a stupid mistake, and that I deserved more than ending our marriage over text. All the cliches. It was bad, but he was determined to leave. I had to get over a dozen people to our final destination, so I couldn't keep messaging him. The second story. I am a 26-year-old female, and my coworker, who is also 26, found my 27-year-old boyfriend on Tinder. He denies using it, but I am not convinced. To make a long story short, we have been dating officially since December, but we were exclusive before that without actually discussing it. Last week, my boyfriend stayed at my place and dropped me off at work before his gig. While I was at work, one of my coworkers informed me that she saw my boyfriend on Tinder. At first, I thought she was crazy because many people mistake him for Ed Sheeran. However, she showed me a screenshot of his profile, and I was shocked to see that the main picture was from November, 3 months after we met. My boyfriend claimed that he hadn't used it in nearly a year, which would be true if we counted November as part of the year. He also said that he did not have Tinder on his phone. Although I wouldn't have been too upset if he had used Tinder in November, I am bothered that he is still active on it and lied to me. He dismissed my concerns and went back to bed, but I am left feeling betrayed, confused, and embarrassed. I don't know what to do. Should I dump him or hear him out? I completely trusted him before, but now I don't know what to believe. Comments and updates. Arbitrary Sock says, I don't think you can show up on Tinder if you aren't actively using the app. I mean, you might if the last time you were on it was like 3 days ago, but not a year as far as I know. Interesting, a deleted user says. Everyone is right on this, you don't show up unless you're actively using the app, and since it was a recent photo, that's even more obvious, unless he came forward and he straight up admitted, yeah, I downloaded it with my buddy and showed him what it's like and must have forgotten to delete it. He's probably lying to you. Downloading Tinder doesn't mean he's 100% cheating, but if he's lying, which he clearly is, he is probably cheating / trying to. Spider Food says, you are 100% 100% certain the photo is from after you started dating, which means you are 100% certain your boyfriend is lying to your face, which means you should be 100% thumping his lying ass. Obedicta says, now, technically, deleting Tinder does not delete your account. However, your boyfriend is using a picture from after you started dating and lying to you. At best, you're trying to downplay 3 to 4 months of possible cheating. Were you two exclusive then? At worst, he continued to cheat for a long time. I'd be reconsidering the relationship, certainly, and if you'd like to make it work, you will need to earn back your trust. Hope he replies, then I'll be hurt by it for sure, but we hadn't discussed it, so I'm not sure if I'd be considering it cheating. Definitely downplaying though, as when we did have the exclusivity chat last December, he said he hadn't seen anyone else since we met. Objective then replies, saying, so since you didn't have the exclusivity chat, it's arguably not cheating, and it's entirely possible he hadn't seen anyone. Not everyone has a lot of luck on Tinder. Regardless, he needs to work on regaining your trust for lying about the photo and how long he had the Tinder profile in action. A good start would be actually deleting that profile, if he hasn't deleted it. All the chats already, see if you can look at them. And more from Haku, who says, bit of a long shot here, but other profile pics on his Tinder also on Facebook. If they are, is possible that he is a victim of a scam program. Happened to me where a botting software took some of my profile pictures and made an effect in their account so it could say like, hey, check out my live stream webcam, and I liked her. The people I matched with, I had no idea about it until a girl I'd been talking to off Tinder told me so. Opie went on to update the post, which said, my 26 female. Last post didn't get too much attention, but I figured I would update, as 1, is cathartic, and 2, things got pretty intense. Essentially, if you didn't read the last post, my coworker's housemate spotted my boyfriend, 27 male, on Tinder. He said he didn't use it, which was clearly a lie, as many of you stated. I truly wanted to believe him when I made the post, even though my gut and the evidence really told me not to. So I made a fake profile with 1 picture and no bio and searched for him with no luck. I matched people to keep the algorithm working, but didn't send messages. I left it at that for the time being. I saw my boyfriend last weekend, and I still didn't get an explanation or an apology or anything even near the truth. So I decided to snoop and edit through his messages. I'm not proud, and I owned up to it partially because he had some weird exchanges with girls. This isn't important to the story, but when I confronted him, I got half-assed responses, and we continue to hardly speak throughout this week. He's also currently at a festival this weekend, so I was feeling even more insecure. I had no explanation for 2 possible cheating situations. Now, I was a bit tipsy last night and decided to bring up the old fake profile, setting the distance on maximum to pick up the festival location. And what do you know, he appeared. I was too afraid to match him, so I messaged my coworker's housemate. She stopped by my job the other day to introduce herself and apologize for the whole situation. Apparently, her ex-boyfriend also had a Tinder profile, and that's why she ended things with him. She said she had my back and would keep an eye out for me. I thought she wouldn't find him when I told her, as I was under the impression that profiles disappear after you swipe left. However, she found him, and they matched. I texted my boyfriend immediately saying it was over because he's still on Tinder. And here's where it gets insane. He responded that his best mate has apparently been chatting on Tinder with a girl from my country and living in my current city. My coworker's housemate is from my country, which is super rare. It honestly wouldn't surprise me that she would get on with my boyfriend's best mate. I know she has friends that live in his town and is there from time to time because she said that's why his profile came up straight away anyway. When my boyfriend's mate went on about her, he thought I was being a catfish. So apparently he decided to download Tinder at the festival to try and catch me. Honestly, I can sort of see why he'd think that in a roundabout way because we are very similar. Still, I told him that his accusation and excuse for being on Tinder was ridiculous. Although I owned up to making a fake profile to try and find him, I also said I know the girl who was chatting as a mate because she's the one who found him originally and matched with him again today. I then reiterated that we were through because there is obviously zero trust between the two of us. I don't think I was in the right in snooping and making a fake profile, but I felt as if I deserved the truth. I also asked if I needed to go to the gum clinic, even though I'll go anyways. He said he would respond tomorrow, but it's well into the afternoon and nothing. Closure is overrated. I guess I'm pretty numb to the whole situation, although I'm gutted that I'll lose our mutual friends because I'll be the crazy ex who catfished their mate. Stop hitting myself said, I don't see why you'll lose your friends. Tell them the truth and dismiss his friend's profile as irrelevant to the situation. Say that he's been active on Tinder throughout your relationship, and you don't know what his friend has to do with anything because that girl is real, and this is between you and your ex, not his friend, to which OP said, unfortunately, they are all at a music festival together. I've messaged one who knows about the original situation, and no response. I'm sure he's telling them lies as I write this, as that's what he's been doing for our entire relationship. Thanks though. I appreciate it. Thank you for your attention and time. Also, thank you to all the people who were engaged in this story. Let's dive into the next video. Don't forget to subscribe.